Hello, movie nerds, and welcome back to Cinematic Sarcastic, podcast that talks all things movies and television. I'm Natalie, and I'm your host. On today's episode, we are going to talk about The Witcher Season 3, and I know this is probably not what everybody thinks we were going to be talking about. I know there's been a bit of a gap. I spent a couple of days at Fan Expo Denver. I'm sure everyone was sort of thinking or expecting that I would be talking about that, and I will. I just had kind of an interesting experience at Fan Expo Denver this year. I have a lot of thoughts around some of my experiences with Fan Expo just in general, and kind of some of the things that I don't want to say went through. I don't want it to sound like I had some sort of traumatic experience or something at a Comic-Con. I didn't. There were just a lot of things that happened. I have a lot of thoughts to kind of put together. And so I decided last year when I covered Fan Expo Denver, I think it was one episode, maybe two episodes about Fan Expo Denver. And then I kind of just moved on. This year, I kind of have enough things sort of rattling around in my brain that I wanted to be able to talk to all of the movie nerds about, that I decided I was going to go ahead and cover like an episode sort of per person or per grouping of people that I was able to interact with and meet this year. That way I can kind of also cover sort of like my favorite movies or experiences around that particular person at the same time. And then that way it won't end up as like one giant Fan Expo Denver episode that goes on for an hour. I know that nobody wants to listen to that. Now, something else that sort of occurred to me that I did not even think about because I was at Fan Expo Denver was that season 3 of The Witcher dropped, I think that same weekend. So I think it came out either the 29th or the 30th, which would have been that Thursday or Friday that I was either preparing for the expo or already at the expo. So I did not have time to sit down and really like watch The Witcher season 3 until kind of yesterday / today. And I'm recording this on July 4th. So I apologize if anybody can hear like fireworks or anything in the background. It just comes with the territory. I'm sorry. So I did sit down and actually watch Netflix sort of separated it out. I'm not sure why. It seems kind of silly, a little bit dumb and a little bit unnecessary, but they separated out season 3 of The Witcher by dropping the first 5 episodes now, and then the remaining 3 episodes are going to drop at a later date. So I've only watched the first 5. I haven't obviously seen the 3 that haven't been released yet. And I have a lot of thoughts. So we are going to talk about those today. You guys, somebody explain to me what the hell happened with Witcher season 3. I actually stopped the show midway through episode 1 and kind of had to take a break. And then I finished the rest of them. Like I finished the rest of episode 1 and I think 2 and 3. And then today finished episodes 4 and 5 because I was just, my mind was confused, which doesn't sound right, but my mind was very confused with what I was watching. I remember very specifically seasons 1 and 2 of The Witcher being good, and I knew potentially that season 3 was going to be a little bit different. Obviously, you know, everyone is kind of going to go into season 3 with a little bit more of a heavy heart because we've known for some time now that Henry Cavill and like the production, the writer, the showrunner, all of that good stuff, that they've had some not good times, we'll say, to be nice about it, that they have not enjoyed working together. We'll put it that way. And so everyone knew that Henry Cavill had exited The Witcher and that Liam Hemsworth is coming on to The Witcher in season 4. And I know that people have some feelings about that. I am fairly neutral. I enjoy Henry Cavill. I enjoy him as The Witcher. I can't really say that I can see someone else playing this role because he embodied it so well, and he obviously like knew the material extremely well, and he just like has that nerd brain. So he approached it from a very good place, I felt like. But obviously he didn't like what the showrunners were doing with it and where like the direction that they were going. And after watching season 3, oh, you guys, I feel like I understand why he was so angry and why, even though he signed on for, I think, like a 7-season run, that he bailed after 3 seasons. It completely is clear to me now. I didn't think, and I know I've heard a lot of people talk about how they didn't like season 2 and they weren't really a fan of kind of the direction it was going. I didn't mind it so much because from my perspective, I've not read the books. I've played so very little of the games that I couldn't even tell you, like, I couldn't call myself a fan of The Witcher because I've not played like a Witcher game entirely of the way through. Like, I played portions of them, but I've never finished one just because of the style of how the games are made. My eyeballs just do not appreciate like the camera movements, and it's hard for me to play them. So I've just never played them all the way through. So I went into The Witcher like completely a noob, just expecting it to be what The Witcher is to like the general audience, right? And the fans and the people that love it. I was sort of expecting to see what it was they loved so much about this franchise. And season 1 I thought was really good. I loved it. I was in it. I enjoyed it very much. I thought that Henry Cavill played Geralt really well. And season 2 I didn't mind. I didn't think it was as good as the first season, but considering that most television shows, I would say the majority of them, typically the first season is kind of garbage. If it's something brand new that we've never seen before, typically it's not that great, right? You know, I'm thinking about like The Walking Dead. The first season was not the best season that they've had. It's kind of the opening season. Oftentimes, first seasons will have a smaller budget. They won't necessarily have, you know, the highest listed actors or actresses. Sometimes it takes a couple of seasons for them to sort of get into a groove. And so because The Witcher season 1 was so good, it sort of just didn't even like enter my mind. Season 2 not really being as good. I was like, well, maybe this is sort of their hiccup season, right? And then when season 2 ended and Henry Cavill finally kind of broke his silence and said, you know, me and the showrunners, we're not getting along. I need to exit. And then like when the showrunners or the writer, whoever it was that came out and dropped the article and was like, Henry Cavill doesn't work well with women. He, you know, is not such a nice guy. And this smear campaign started to happen. I was a little bit taken aback and I was like, uh-oh, like obviously, you know, there are 2 sides to each story and the truth often lies somewhere in the middle of that. But in this case, I couldn't sort of wrap my head around like, okay, who's telling the truth? Which side is the side that makes more sense? And then season 3 hit and I went, Henry Cavill is the side that makes more sense. Season 3 is a mess, you guys. Season 3 is a mess. I was so confused the whole way through. Even the filming style of it, the costuming, the writing felt so different. Even from season 2, which I felt was a tiny bit of a step down from season 1. Season 3 was like in a whole other universe. It felt to me a lot more like The Witcher Blood Origin, which I thoroughly disliked. I thought that was just a mess and a jumble and garbage, and the acting was not great and the writing was terrible and the story was nonsensical. Season 3 of The Witcher felt like that. I think that pretty much the only parts that made sense or that I even cared a lick about were the scenes with Henry Cavill, you know, and like Ciri and Yennefer. Those were the only ones that I was even remotely connected to or concerned with. And even their storyline, obviously it's not being told like in a straight line, which I know we've seen with The Witcher before, how it kind of bounces around a little bit. So I was sort of expecting that. But the production value just seemed so different. And it could be entirely in my mind. Like my brain could definitely be making it up. But it almost felt as though there were definite tensions between the production side and the acting side of everything, where you knew that there were obviously some splits happening. Like something about it just felt off. And in a way that didn't make sense to me, like the only way that I can sort of look at season 3 of The Witcher is to go, clearly there was a reason for the choices that they made here. And there can be really only one of two things going on. That they knew, and I'm talking about like the showrunners here, that they knew that Henry Cavill was going to exit. And so they deliberately made season 3, which was his last season, garbage to basically destroy like Henry Cavill's Witcher in order for Liam Hemsworth to come in and get like a better production, a better season. Sort of like if you kill off the old, the new has a better chance of surviving. And or the only other possibility that I can think of is that they know that Liam Hemsworth is not going to be able to do it. They know that audiences are pissed about Henry Cavill's departure, and they are intentionally driving The Witcher into the ground so that when season 3 fails, they can turn around to Liam Hemsworth and go, sorry, bud, we're going to cancel this show. Thanks, but no thanks. Your Gerald is no longer needed. And whether you agree with what's going on with Henry Cavill leaving and Liam Hemsworth coming into it, I think if option number 2 is the option or the route that they decided to take, that's pretty shitty in my opinion, because whether or not Liam Hemsworth does a good job, I don't know. I haven't seen his portrayal of The Witcher yet, so I can't comment on that. Do I like Henry Cavill's? Yes. Do I want Henry Cavill to stay? Yes. Do I understand that sometimes you don't work well with the people around you? Oh, you betcha. So I try not to like look at it and go, well, Liam Hemsworth is not going to do a good job, because it isn't his fault. Like everything that's going on has nothing to do with Liam Hemsworth. He is not involved in any of those decisions that are being made, but it would be awfully garbage of Netflix to have him obviously on a special diet because he has been training for months to try and actually, represent the role as best as he can. He's been, reading all of the books, devouring all the material, trying to step into this role. Like Liam Hemsworth, I think, is doing what he can to fill those shoes, right? So it would be very trash, I think, if their intention was to kind of ruin the show so that they can cancel it and sort of just walk away from it. I don't know what the contracts or anything look like, so I don't know if that is the story. This is just my assumption. But gosh, I don't know that I am interested in watching season 4, because I don't even know if I am interested in finishing the rest of season 3. I so dislike it. I so dislike how it's being done. And it feels completely different to me personally than the first 2 seasons did. It just doesn't feel like the same quality, the same storytelling. Even the action sequences, like the CGI is done, it feels like much worse. Because I know we've had CGI monsters previously, but this very much felt kind of like the CGI monster from, again, like I said, Blood Origins, where you're like, they're looking at nothing, they're fighting nothing. It doesn't even look like this thing is actually, that there is no tennis ball. Like they're acting with no, help here. It kind of feels like that. But the creatures in season 3 don't even seem to fit into the space that they're supposed to. Like there is one creature that they're fighting like on a boat, like on a ship. And it doesn't even feel like the creature actually, like the CGI actually fits into the space that it's supposed to fit into. Like it's very confusing to me. Some of the production choices that they've made here. So I don't know. You guys are going to have to tell me what you think of The Witcher season 3. I am not loving it, you guys. I don't know what happened. Someone explain to me what happened. If anybody has any like inside knowledge or anything as to what's going on with The Witcher, because it feels very deliberate, the change in tone of the show. So I don't know, you guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Subscribe if you want to join the Movie Nerd family. You can find me on Instagram at Cinematic Sarcastic Podcast, and I hope to see you in the next episode.